Wade and Ryan here, NFL in London. A bit of a break, but so much to absorb. So many news and so many things going on in the world. You guys picked up one of
my favorite times of the
It
year
is.
is right now. It's great.
It's
Love it.
surprise time where lots of people end up in places you wouldn't think trading. You start to see how expensive people are, and we're anticipating some big moves. There's a lot of free agents. As we said, the tampering period is on. Is it off? I don't know, but you can tamper.
It's always
There's tampering.
Yeah, you can do whatever you can violate. You can violate as much as you want in this tampering period.
Well, yeah, I guess if you're on the Falcons, they've had some issues with that. We're getting more and more details going on with international games. Apparently, there's a new one in Iran this year that they're going to have, which is going to be exciting. The Oil Bowl, Freedom Bowl. Well, yeah, I mean, we'll go through some of the big news. We should talk maybe the first one because you guys got some of our dirty laundry. You guys have picked up DJ Moore.
We did.
Give Josh Allen someone to overthrow. Obviously, I think as Bears fans, he was good. Not as good as he used to be, particularly in the Carolina days. But when you're starting to look at your team and salary caps and what you need to do and who you're going to keep happy, I think with the Bears, with Luther Burden, with some of the talents that we have there, it seemed like it was one of those, okay, we should make, something happen here. And for the Bills, you guys need sort of a number one kind of speedster and someone with a safe pair of hands. How do you feel about that deal?
Yeah, listen, at first I was a bit shocked that they gave up a second. I thought because of his contract, the Bears would probably just be like, just take him, and we could have done it for a bit more. But I think the thing is that DJ Moore had his best year with Justin Fields. So he had 1,300 yards with Justin Fields. He's always kind of been producing, and they just never seem to be on the same wavelength with him and Caleb. There's always problems. Like they just never had that kind of connection with each other that you kind of saw that he had almost with everybody. And the last 2 years. So the question is, was it a connection problem with Caleb, or is this a guy who's on the downside swing? Even in his Bears, he made that big catch against the Packers in that overtime, that end zone one. And we saw in the Buffalo-Denver game, we saw Brandon Cooks drop that exact same pass that went in his bucket. So I think the Bills just needed to get better at that position regardless. I think, they probably like his skill set better than say an AJ Brown, because you can move DJ Moore all around the field, put him in the backfield, have him run all sorts of positions, and I think he would be a lot cheaper. And I just think that we saw what happened with Keon Coleman in the second round. It didn't work. So thinking that it's like we need a guy who can kind of get with it, get open, catch now, and we just can't take a risk of waiting to see if this rookie happens again, because the Bills are still in a position where they want to kind of just take that next step. And I thought it was a smart move. Is it going to be like a great move that transcends it? I don't know, but I think he gets over 1,000 yards and has a bounce back season. Absolutely, because I think he played with Joe Brady back in Carolina. They know each other, and I think it's a fresh start for him. I think him and the Bears kind of needed it as well.
Yeah, I agree with you, particularly with Coach Ben. I think we've really switched to a real running game. You saw the difference in terms of the way that we run the ball, and it wasn't. I think that he really needs a veteran quarterback, someone who can sort of give him instructions, stretch the field. He's a veteran himself, so maybe this Josh Allen pairing will be good for him in terms of you get a guy who's a solid pair of hands, who can read routes himself, but also that you guys need a good, solid, sort of number one in terms of receiver. It did feel like that we weren't utilizing the best of him in Chicago, and he did have some great hands, but at the same time, I think there was a lot of people sort of wanting more out of him, but there's only so much you can get out of the schemes that we were running. So, and with Loveland particularly taking a lot of the share, it's like, okay, let's move. He should get a chance to develop himself, and particularly in his sort of waning years, this might be a good fit to try to chase a ring.
Yeah, listen, I think from what's probably out there that's available, I think I'd rather have DJ Moore than our second round pick this year. If coming at it from a perspective of maybe that second round pick becomes someone great, but a lot of times they don't. Most of them are busts. We've seen constant receiver busts that happen in the second round. The second round is no gimme. So to me, give me someone dependable who can get open for Josh Allen, because God knows they need it.
Yeah, we'll get into some of the big news going around then. So Tua has been released, which wasn't a big shocker. 99 million dead cap from June 1st, and you start looking. I mean, there are rumors that Vegas, the Jets, Arizona, Minnesota, all looking at him. Are they really though? Is this something that where
Yeah.
people are really like, oh yeah, we can finally get Tua? Is this something you think that people are really sort of
I mean,
looking at, or is this going to be a real awkward move for him?
well, it's is he going to get a starting job? I don't know. But again, there's so many bad quarterbacks out there. To be honest, like we see it in the league every year, and I just think that kind of like with Russell Wilson was a couple of years ago when he got cut from Denver. You know, bring him in. You only have to pay him like literally veteran minimum because Miami's going to be footing the bill for the rest of it. So you're literally bringing in two as your backup. Like if I'm somewhere like Atlanta, you already got a guy who's
Yeah.
got maybe a lefty in Penix. Do you bring someone in to kind of challenge him? Who's another Penix? Atlanta, I think, is also a guy who maybe goes after Kyler Murray that we could talk about in a
Mm-hmm.
second. But I, does Tua get a starting job? I don't think so. But I just think I think that contract really did a number on the NFL, just kind of teams now not be wanting to be like, hey, just because it's your turn doesn't mean we have to pay you. And I think
Yeah.
we're going to see it. And we're now watching Sam Darnold win the Super Bowl. It's like, yeah, maybe you don't need 55 million for an average quarterback. So I think he'll sit back and I think he waits a bit. I think he sees where
Yeah.
he's going to go somewhere where there's going to be a chance to start, where there's going to be a battle. Does he go to somewhere like Indianapolis with Daniel Jones and he can just kind of hold the fort till Daniel Jones gets healthy? There is options for him. I'd be shocked if, I mean, you could get a lot worse backup quarterbacks in the league than Tua. I'll tell you that. If you have Tua coming in, I'd say he instantly becomes one of the best backups, but there's
Yeah.
just not many jobs he's going to be fighting for, I think, and it's going to be tough for him to find one. Like maybe at the Jets, but I don't think anyone's
Sure.
going
I
to want to
mean,
go to the Jets.
you wonder with Aaron Glenn if he's going to make. They've sort of been bitten, and he's been sort of saddled with bad talent before. I wonder if it's going to be one of those things that people are quick to go after Tua, or if he could find himself still week 4 and not have a job.
No, I think there's more people that are going to be in demand. I think Malik Willis is going to get more attention. I think
Yeah.
Kyler Murray gets more attention. I think Kirk Cousins gets more attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where it is for him. I think he's small. Maybe he's got to play somewhere in hot weather. Maybe he goes to the Rams and plays with McVay behind Stafford. Just
Yeah.
gets that little McVay pixie dust that everyone seems to get, and then they go on and play great somewhere else. So if I'm him, I'm going somewhere that maybe, yeah, like with a coach that can probably take me to that, get me back in the like kind of like Shanahan does with
Yeah.
Mac Jones. Like find that guy
Sure.
who can just that there's find a go back up a guy who always gets injured. So you're gonna
Well, I mean,
there's
to
gonna be
that, could you
spots.
see him? To that, could you see
Pittsburgh,
him going
go to
to
Pittsburgh.
to the Chargers? Could you see him, Mike McDaniel, wanting to bring him
No,
in to back up the
no,
often
no.
injured
I don't think so.
Justin Herbert? No.
I don't think so. I think you go fresh start. I don't think you bring that into your. Yeah, no. I'd be shocked if you did that. To be honest with you.
Is it possible to also maybe put him and Kyler Murray together to form one bigger quarterback?
Yeah, 1 inch bigger. It'll be just a
Yeah.
tiny bit bigger. Yeah.
You mentioned
Listen. Yeah.
Kyler Murray. So what about Kyler? Because again, there's these height issues that go into. You have these pocket rocket quarterbacks that are quick in the pocket, that can run, but they don't have that height step sometimes to oversee some of the linemen.
But the difference between Kyler Murray and like a Tua is Kyler Murray's faster than Tua. Kyler Murray has a much stronger arm than Tua. Like Kyler Murray can throw it all over the field. He's got an arm. Like he can zing it. He used to be a
Mm-hmm.
pitcher. The guy's got a strong arm. So I think they'll be in demand. I think, I think do the Jets go after him? I think Atlanta will be up for him. Does Minnesota, who's constantly looking for someone? I think, Kyler Murray's going to have kind of, Miami, does he go there? Again, I don't know if Miami does that. You can't go from
They
Tua
want
to
to make the
Kyler.
same mistake twice.
You
You're
know what
pretty
I mean?
replacing the same guy with the same guy.
Yeah. So, but again, it's new coaching staff. But to me, if I'm Kyler, I think Atlanta's the best spot. Go challenge Penix. Atlanta gets a kind of, you got weapons all over the place. You got Drake London, Pitts, Bijan. You know, don't have Mooney anymore. But then again, got
Yeah.
Stefanski, a good offensive coach as well. Like Kyler's been sitting there with in Minnesota, with Jonathan Gannon and all these defensive coaches who just don't know how to utilize them. So to me, Atlanta would be the number one spot. Throw him in for like 2 million. Let him challenge Penix, or let him, because Penix I think tore his ACL or something again,
Yeah.
like the third time. So he's probably going to be out half the season. So if I'm Atlanta, I think that's to me the best matchup.
What about Kirk Cousins? I mean, we sort of touched on it in a previous podcast because it's been a while, but what do you think of his market value and the potential areas that he might be shipped to or where he might be an asset?
I mean, if he wants, honestly, he could go straight into TV basically and be on
Right to
like
the
one of those
broadcasting booth?
right to the broadcast. He's
Try
one
to
of those
challenge
guys that
Tom Brady for his job?
maybe, I think he goes back to Minnesota, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think he goes back with Kevin O'Connell. I think at the end of the year, I mean, he had his moments, but he was still terrible. But it's again, he's got Justin Jefferson. He's played there. He's got a good, you know, I thing was it Kevin O'Connell was trying it with Brosner and Wentz and McCarthy, and I think bringing in a veteran like Kirk Cousins could probably help. Someone like JJ McCarthy. I don't think Wentz was the Mr. Miyagi sensei to JJ McCarthy last year, and I think he needs that. Maybe to sit behind someone like an experienced veteran for a year and just they kind of just ride it. I just don't think Minnesota, again, with that many options, I think they're going to go somewhere cheap and somewhere they're comfortable with, which I think is Kirk Cousins, which is, again, I don't think is a great fit. It's not a great option, but it's safe. And they need safe because last year was a disaster.
I mean, people are doubling down on nostalgia, and it might, for anyone who
Yeah.
had a Kirk Cousins jersey and they're in the Value Village or in the charity shop, they'll be like, "Oh, pull that sucker back out
Yeah.
again." Um, when we start talking about Arizona, because Kyler's gone, they've given Connor a nice contract. McBride got a hefty contract as well, so they're bringing back some key pieces there. What kind of quarterback do you think is going to be a fit? How do you think that you've got some changes going on in this leadership in Arizona? They've flirted with some good seasons and then just been okay to absolute dog shit. And what kind of quarterback do you think they'll be looking for?
I think they're gonna go for Malik Willis. I think Malik Willis makes sense. Lafleur is one of like the brother of
Yeah,
Matt Lafleur is the coach now. Again,
yeah,
Lafleur,
Guy Lafleur.
if he has any information on Malik Willis, he can go to his brother and get all the information he
Yeah.
needs. I think that's a fantastic kind of mix up our matchup, our partnership, basically. What do you think?
I could see that. I mean, you look at what's his name, Brissett, what he did for them last year, and you sort of go, well, damn. I mean, not that you want to Geno Williams this guy or Geno Smith this guy, and sort of go, okay, yeah, let's give him the keys to the candy shop. You do want someone solid there. So I don't know. He does have that veteran experience to him, but
And he had those
I
great
don't
games at the
know.
end of the year. I think Malik's
Yeah,
got kind of, but I think a lot of people might be a bit worried, kind of like the Justin Fields contract that happened last year with New
sure.
York. They were like, everyone was like, Justin Fields, and he was terrible.
Yeah,
But Malik's, he's got Marvin Harrison Jr., he's got Trey McBride. They get a couple more weapons.
sure. I mean,
And
their defense played quite well as well. Like Arizona had a solid defense. So, um, I think it's also then there's that sort of other problem you had. Remember the Matt Flynn contract? Matt Flynn had that one game for
yeah,
Green Bay. It was like five
right.
touchdowns, torched up. Everyone's like, "This guy's the greatest ever," and then you're like, "Oh,
Yeah, he
do
was. Yeah,
something,
that's.
do something." Do you wonder if that's going to be because Malik obviously was at Tennessee, had his moment there. Did he have his moment? Was it as a result of he steps in, you know, because of the caliber of coaching that the Packers have, that he was good in that situation, but maybe on his own, without that great coaching, without that, maybe he's going to be a bust. And I think that's
I don't.
people
I
you sort
don't-
of wonder that,
I mean, yeah,
because you
of
don't want
course.
to.
There's always the option. But again, I think he's not going to get like 40, 50 million. You can get him probably on like the 30, maybe probably like the Justin Fields, 20, 30 million. Again, if there's
Yeah,
people fighting for him. But listen, he's got legs. He was actually like really highly touted, but just was always deemed a project. And now I think
yeah,
again, like we've said, we've seen teams just give up on quarterbacks now, and these guys that just get these second chances, and when they do, they flourish. So you say even saw
Yeah,
with Geno Smith, it took like 8 years to get really good, basically, and then had like a
yeah,
solid 5, 6 year kind of career where he really was decent until this year. He's another guy who's on the market. So I think Malik Willis is going to get paid. I think he played so well in those games last year, especially in such a difficult
yeah,
position with all the injuries to the Packers, and he kind of just willed them Willis them to victory.
yeah,
Or not to victory, to loss because they always lost those games. But he
yeah.
played well. He played well, though.
No, what about Geno Smith? Because obviously you could look and go, well, maybe it was unfair. He didn't have any. I mean, aside from Bowers, he didn't have a lot of talent to go from in Vegas. Was
No.
it unfair? Do you think that he can rebound? Do you think there'll be another team that he'll fall into that he'll either be a solid backup?
Yeah, I think he goes the Andy Dalton route now the rest of his career, right? He's just going to bounce around, being a solid backup. He's going to go a couple places. Like again, I think Geno should go to somewhere like Cleveland, right? Go play with Shador and kind of back Shador up
And Deshaun.
and Deshaun. Well, who knows what's going to happen with Deshaun? He could still get cut if they want. Um, I just think again, Gino to me would be a solid backup, and anyone, I'd happily have him in Buffalo if they needed someone to kind of come in. I feel like he's at least. I think he's at least shown we've kind of seen it in the NFL that if you don't have a good backup and something goes wrong, it gets ugly really quickly. We saw it
Yeah.
with Indianapolis. Like look how like they just ab
Yeah.
7-1
Bringing old man
absolutely
Rivers back
collapsed.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And
Desperate times.
Anthony
So
Richardson is an interesting when we talk about Indianapolis because obviously, he wants to test the waters and we did see some flashes in his rookie season. You're like, "Oh wow, this guy can ball, he can throw hard, he can run, he's a big guy." But then there was obviously questions about his work ethic and his discipline. Do you think this is maybe something the kids learn from it now and he's ready to put in the steps or I mean, there's obviously going to be some interest in this guy because of his size, his strength, and what he demonstrated his
well,
rookie season.
well, I think he's still on the team, right? So to me, it's like, especially with Daniel Jones, like injured and probably not coming back right away. I would just see what we have, give him one last camp to see if he can turn it around and do something to kind of basically take over the team because I think they're in such a bad spot in Indianapolis because like, do you really pay Daniel Jones? And 50 coming off a torn Achilles that you don't know what he's going to
Yeah,
be. You're going to maybe lose Alec Pierce to huge money in the offseason. So you've lost such a dynamic weapon. You know, uh, it's a tricky situation. If I am Indianapolis, I maybe get someone like Gino, right? Someone who can
yeah,
maybe just kind of hold the job down, play smart football. I mean, Gino doesn't sometimes play smart football, but again, I think Pete Carroll was a bit of a disaster last year, and at least in somewhere like Indy, you're going through like an offensive Steichen, a little offensive situation. It's got to be better for him. So I think he lands somewhere and gets a
yeah.
gets a solid backup job because he's still a decent backup quarterback.
Yeah, no, he is, and it's he did have some shining in Seattle, and so it'd be interesting to see how he goes with that. I want to get into the one of the big contracts that we looked at. I mean, so Baltimore re-signed Tyler Huntley, 2 years, 11 million, but they also signed Max Crosby, who a lot of
Oh
people
yes,
were
a
wondering
big
where the hell
trade.
Max Crosby would go.
Or the trade.
They get a
Traded for
first
Max Crosby.
traded Max Crosby for first round pick in 2026, first round pick in 2027. They get the 14th pick, Las Vegas. Good deal here for
Oh yeah.
Baltimore.
Oh, I mean, I think it's a better deal for the Raiders. I think the Raiders are now again. I think playing it kind of smart. I think the fact that now if you could get Fernando Mendoza with the number one pick, you can use the 14th maybe to get a good receiver for him because they're desperate for
Hmm.
receivers. Their defense was all again trading a 28, 29-year-old defensive end for two first round picks is good return. Max Crosby
Yeah,
hasn't been 8 day and also a guy who never comes off the field, right? Always,
yeah,
and his sack totals have come down, but he's a monster. He's always double teamed. He's a great player. I just thought Baltimore's offense was worse last year for some reason
yeah,
than their defense couldn't really get any sacks. They got injuries and they had no pass rush. But to me, like their offense, they still don't really have. Again, if Zay Flowers is your only receiver, And you're
Yeah.
going to lose Isaiah
Flowers
Likely
and
now.
Bateman,
You
and
got
it's
Andrews, and it's just to me. And again, you're going now with a 32-year-old Derrick Henry, who's he still had
yeah,
his moments last year, but he also had moments where he looked bad. So, and then if you lose
sure,
Linderbaum, if you lose him, then your offensive line's
yeah,
getting Lamar's banged up all the time. It's a risk. I think it it doesn't make you see the trade and you're like, oh, Baltimore's going to the Super Bowl, right? Like it doesn't have
yeah,
that feel. It has a feel like that was a good trade. You're going to be better defensively, and you got Jesse Minter, who's a better defensive coach. So maybe they're hoping if he can just kind of cause havoc back there with the way their secondary is and their linebackers with Roquan Smith. But they got an expensive defense. It better be good because it's pretty much one of the most
yeah,
expensive defenses in the NFL, I'd say, and kind of
yeah. I
old.
mean,
Kind of getting old.
when yeah, with especially with and them in Pittsburgh, same division, very expensive defenses, and as you say, getting aged because okay, we haven't won, we're not getting close to the AFC Finals. Let's get rid of the coach. We still have Lamar. Then what do you do if you still can't even win your division? You still can't even move forward. He's like, what is next? Is it that we did the wrong deal with Lamar? What is
Well,
Baltimore's moves if they're stymied?
I don't think so. I mean, you got Lamar. You got Lamar. You're not going to do anything about it. You just kind of. To me, again, they now you don't even have a first round pick to get him a weapon, and so do they go out and sign someone offensive again? Well, that's right. We're going to literally find out in about an hour what's going
Yeah,
to start happening when they start trickling through. So it's going to be fun to see what people do because there's some decent receivers out there. You know, Romeo Dobbs, some guys that can get some
Pierce.
some decent
Yeah,
little. Well, Pierce is going to get big money. So, but I don't think it'll be
yeah.
Baltimore.
I don't think it'll be Baltimore. Who's going to get him? Some other trades. I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick for the Jets. 2026 seventh round pick.
I mean,
3 years, 40 million.
it's a
You know,
weird. Like the Jets don't do all this dumping of salary and dumping of players and dumping, and then they're like, you know what we need is an expensive safety now. So it's like,
yeah,
I don't know what the plan is with the Jets, and especially like Aaron Glenn. There was that video of him at the combine falling asleep, and it's just the
yeah,
Jets just feel like an absolute. And like again, you have Garrett Wilson who's just getting his whole. This guy could be a Hall of Famer if he played anywhere else, and he's just getting killed back there, just waiting. They franchise Brees Hall. And they don't have a quarterback.
yeah.
I don't know what's
It's a lot
happening,
of
but
a lot of
it's
hell
a
in
mess.
there. Now, how about the
It's a
Rams?
mess.
Trent McDuffie, 4 year, 124 million, highest paid cornerback in the league now. Traded for a bunch of draft picks. Good move, do you think, on their
Yeah.
part?
Listen,
Yeah,
I love anything that hurts Kansas City, to be honest with you. So he's one of the best corners in football. Like
yeah,
he's been fantastic, and the Rams are always that team. Again, I think having that extra pick
yeah,
from the Falcons just made it easy for them. If they got Stafford, they want to just kind of go on a run. They traded for Ramsey, they traded for Von Miller, they traded for and they gave him
yeah,
a big contract. They're going to have to sign Puka. So it feels like this is a Stafford one and done year. Like this is his last year, I think, because
yeah,
with all the money coming in and contracts, it's just not. So that's why I think maybe they get someone like Tua, someone like Mac Jones, who knows, someone to kind of come in and back them up to
well, they
maybe
had Garoppolo,
potentially
right? Wasn't
take
that
over.
he was the
Yeah,
backup?
but
Garoppolo.
yeah, but I don't think
I think the
Jimmy.
people are looking at him too.
But I
um
think Jimmy G's past that time.
how about Teron Johnson? Vegas taking him up from Buffalo. um 6th round pick, 7th round pick.
Yeah, he was a solid player. I think Terry Johnson was just kind of now just age is creeping up on him. He's getting a bit banged up. Penalties, he just wasn't. He was an All Pro a couple years ago. He's still a solid tackler, plays aggressive, and I think any team who gets him gets a solid nickel cornerback. And I think the Raiders needed secondary. So the fact that the Bills, who are going to release him, were able to kind of get a sixth
Yeah,
round pick swap is a benefit. You know, considering you were going to cut him and now you got a 6th round pick out of it. So that's at least a win. The Packers did the same thing with Rashawn Gary in Dallas
yeah.
as well, where they just kind of they were going to release him, and Dallas is like, "We'll take him." It's like, all right, give me a 7th rounder, 6th rounder. So,
Houston signed Danielle Hunter 1 year, 40 million. Good job, but that's a hell of a lot of money.
well, he's been amazing. Again, I think that he was so good for the 2-year contract. They're like, wow, okay, especially that defense. If they could just get Stroud to not be an idiot and turn it over 15 times and play that game he did against the Patriots, they probably would have been in the Super Bowl. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
like it's so Houston to me is just a big Stroud year. You know, they traded for who else did they trade for? They traded for a running
They
back.
traded for David Montgomery.
David Montgomery,
And
yes,
for
recently.
and they also they cut Joe Mixon, which surprising. I mean, he was underwhelming, but still,
Well, he
you
never
wonder
even
for
played
someone
last
looking.
year. He just kind of
Yeah,
had that foot injury and just kind of completely disappeared. And yeah, and no one even knows what happened. He's just kind of like Brandon Ayuk. He just kind of just
yeah,
disappeared and nobody went. He went off the grid into the woods or something, and no one's seen him
yeah.
since.
But so interesting in terms of that. Let's running back wise. I mean, because you look at Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP. He wasn't outstanding in the regular season, especially splitting with Charbonnet. But how do you feel like when you've got this Super Bowl MVP tag? He's going to want to get paid, and signs are sort of pointing that maybe Seattle isn't going to keep him. Disrespectful,
Hmm.
or just sort of you
No,
figure that's just
it's
sort
a
of the way it
bit.
is, kid?
It's a bit disrespectful. I consider he pretty much single-handedly won that game. He was dominant all throughout the playoffs. Um, but it's just one of those things. People don't want to pay running backs, especially when you have someone like Charbonnet. I think he might go to somewhere like Denver. I think him going to somewhere like
Yeah,
Denver. They even said Kansas City, who's potentially looking for a running back. Someone like ETN or him could go to somewhere like
yeah,
Kansas City. Give Mahomes, because Mahomes' running game last year they cannot keep bringing Kareem Hunt back there with
yeah.
Pacheco, and they are desperate unless they get Jeremiah Love with the ninth pick. So I think again, it's just teams are just really hesitant unless you're just that one running back away. Like Baltimore's felt like they were when they got Derrick Henry. Like if you go
Hmm.
sign with like Tennessee, are you feeling great? Like you might just chase the money, but you're going on a kind of a young team
Yeah.
which might need you. But I think again, if you're Kenneth Walker, just get the money. But I just hope he doesn't just sign with like the Browns and then just everything just falls apart. I hope he chooses
Well,
wisely and goes to another competitor who needs him.
we did mention Travis Etienne because it does look like that Jacksonville will probably part ways with him. And thoughts were that maybe they'll pick up Kenneth Walker, but in terms of Jacksonville really came together at the end of last season, and you sort of like okay, you got a few pieces missing here. There's the running game's doing well, the passing game you've got some other options here. What do you think? Where do you think? Do you think HN are they stupid to let him go, or is it smart and
Ah,
just try to run with
no.
what they got? Because they got rid of Bigsby and that sort of didn't come sort of bit them back at a couple times.
I just think with the money that they're going to have to pay if they want to keep Brian Thomas Jr., if they want to make any big trades, I just think running back wasn't really their problem. They're going to have Travis Hunter come back. I just think I can't remember what his name was, but uh, their backup running back. Every time he came in, he was definitely competent, and I just think ETN is just not going to be worth the money that someone's
Yeah,
going to be willing to pay him. And I don't even know if he's going to get that much. I mean, he was good, but no one he didn't like change games. Or he wasn't like I think Kenneth Walker is a much better running back than like he's so much more dominant, stronger, powerful. ETN's we always kind of thought he was going to be this great receiver, and it just never really panned out that way. He never really
yeah.
seemed to be able to dominate the way. And I just think Jacksonville's got too many other things to worry about. That paying a running back is just not high on the list.
All right. So to finish it up here, I'm going to throw a few names at you, and then you sort of give me a quick thought because all
Yeah,
of this will change by the time we do our next podcast.
yeah, I know, probably.
Where do
Or
you think they might go? Romeo Dobbs.
I think he goes to the Niners. I think the Niners need a receiver. I think again they lost Ayuk. They've lost a lot of guys. They only had really Pearsall. Even Jawan Jennings might even go if they lose him. So
Mm-hmm.
I think Romeo Dobbs goes there. I don't maybe goes to New England. I just don't think Romeo Dobbs is a tricky one because I don't know what he's worth. He kind
Yeah.
of he has these games and then he disappears completely, and then he'll have 3 touchdowns at a game, and so. But I think the Niners need weapons. They need, especially again with the injuries that they always end up getting. So I say he goes there. Is that fair?
All right. I'm going to say Miami just because, getting rid of Tyreek and needing some speed and needing a wide receiver. Rashid Shaheed, who obviously was picked up by Seattle last year, speedster, but they've got a lot of speedsters and talent on that team. Keep him, or where does he go?
I say he goes. I'm gonna say he goes to the Patriots. I think the Patriots need some. They got again the way Drake made through the deep ball throughout the year, just to have another guy, and then to also have a good, you got a good kick returner, punt returner on it. I just think he goes somewhere like that. I don't think he goes to Buffalo. I think the fact that they got DJ Moore, just they're not going to be spending 13, 14 million on a. And I think the Pats have still lots of cap space, lots of room. So I think they need weapons because that's what showed in the Super Bowl. They couldn't get anywhere, and they lost Diggs. They've cut Diggs.
Yeah,
So to me, they need a receiver badly. And unless this AJ Brown trade's still going to happen, which is always a possibility.
always a possibility. We don't know. I could see him going to the Steelers. If they do decide to keep Aaron Rodgers, look, they were limited in the amount of ways that they could stretch the field. Rodgers still has a deep arm and have a speedster because Metcalf's fast, but this kid's got some wheels on him. Mike Evans.
I think he stays in Tampa. I just think he's played there his whole career. I think he'll go looking, but what are the options really be? Maybe he goes to Baltimore, maybe, but I think again, does he go somewhere cold? He's been in Florida his whole career.
Yeah.
Does he go to maybe Jacksonville? He just goes across to the other side of Florida. But I think he stays in Tampa. I think they'll just want him to end his career there. And I think Tampa just had a lot of bad luck last year. They got injuries. Things just didn't happen the way, and they just they started out really good. And Mike Evans, I just think he's going to have a look around. He'll see the money and he'll go, I'll just stay.
Yeah, I can see that too. I mean, it would be interesting to see him on the Chargers, just having a veteran like that with a veteran quarterback and someone that can stretch the field with it. But I still think he'll stay in Tampa. I think Tampa will be like, come on and stay. Baker has him. As long as he stays healthy, it'd be good to have him. Jalen Watson, cornerback.
It's a cornerback. I mean, everyone needs corners. To me, I'm gonna go with the Raiders. I think the Raiders just desperately need defensive players. Again, if you're losing Max Crosby, who's the only guy who could get pressure for you, you better have some corners who can cover some people. So to me, I think the Raiders have lots of money, and I think they could be one of those sneaky teams that they hit on a couple draft picks. If Mendoza's good, they could turn it around. They got Genty, they got Bowers. If they can hit a couple defensive guys, and I think they load up Taron Johnson now in the nickel. So yeah, I think the Raiders are going to be in the market for a corner for sure.
Yeah, I could see him. I wonder about the Bears too, because we have traded away some parts of our defense and wonder if that might be a useful person for us. Rasheed Walker, offensive tackle.
Ooh, I would go. I mean, offensive tackle. I would like to say like the Patriots just because of how bad it looked last year.
Yeah.
I just think again with Will Campbell, do they want to maybe move him into guard because of how bad he looked in that Super Bowl, and they're going to want to get some extra tackle depth again. And I think Kansas City needs. They got rid of some offensive linemen, so I think they are going to be, especially with Mahomes coming off a torn ACL, they're going to want some protection. So I think Kansas City will be in the market for some offensive linemen.
I think so as well. What about Devin Lloyd?
Devin Lloyd. I like to see him on Buffalo. I think Buffalo, I want them to, they need linebackers because they're going to switch to more of like a 3-4 defense under Jim Leonard. So I think, having linebackers is going to be so key for them. And I think I just saw Pierce just signed. Oh, I just dropped my phone. Looking for it. I think Pierce just signed with Indianapolis. I think just re-signed back with them. But
breaking news.
Just popped up on my phone.
Starting.
I think it's it. I tried to look.
All right, we talked about this guy earlier, but let's do the last prediction for the prediction for Malik Willis.
I'm sticking with Arizona. I think Arizona's a good place for him. Plays in a dome, good weather, good offensive coach coming from the McVay tree. To me, that's a dream scenario. As long as they don't trade Marvin Harrison for some stupid reason, and I think he's going to go to Arizona. I'd be surprised if he went anywhere else. I feel that's the best place for him.
I'm going to go Miami just because I think that they've obviously got to make some changes there. They've got to bring in someone. You're not going to bring a rookie in again to let it go. Of course, we don't know. We're just getting breaking news.
Well,
so apparently
we're going to find out very soon.
We will find out. So, folks, thanks for listening. Make sure, and next week, Ryan will be back to look at all the trades, all that's happening, because everything we said could be BS, but we'll find out. Thanks for listening.
Probably.